Okay, now we're recording. So maybe what I can do is kind of go down the list of who we've got on, and then if I don't mention your name, you can chime in a moment. So as far as board members, I have Pat, I have Eric, I have Johnny, I have Amber, and I have Jeanette. So the other folks that I have on the line are Patrick with RBC, John Wagner with Kuujjuaq Rock, Alex Burkholter, Andrew Shinani, Jean Luer, Greg Gould, Billy Steitler, Liz Mogstead, Mary Palkovich, Joel Landry, Mina Chu, Penny Cope, and Todd Jackson. Are there any other folks that I did not?
Bruce, this is Heather McMillan at Homeward.
Heather? Yeah, sorry, Heather. I was just talking to you.
This is Jody Paxton, Lake County Housing.
Good morning. It's Tom Mantrick, Thomas Development from Boise.
Bruce, this is Don Sturhan, Mountain Plains Equity Group. So with me is Shane Walk.
Are there any other folks online who haven't been introduced or introduced themselves?
Pat, the only other ones I need to get on the list, Paula Loving in my office, Kelly Garigula, Cheryl Cohen, and Mary Bear.
They're there, Bruce, with you?
Again?
Yes.
Yes.
Are they there with you?
Yeah, they're sitting in my office. So.
Okay, so this is the time in board meetings where we allow public comments for anything that's not on the agenda but within the jurisdiction of the agency. Anyone out there want to make a comment? Want to address the board?
How do I mute my call?
Pardon me? Okay, hearing no one wanting to address the board. Bruce, I didn't see that we had any prior board meeting minutes to approve.
There are the November.
Oh, there they are. Okay.
Yep.
This is Eric. Move approval.
And Jeanette will second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the November 19th meeting. Although, are there any suggested changes or comments regarding the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, minutes are approved. We'll move on to multifamily program. Mary, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you. So today you have before you two requests for additional credits. The first one is Cottonwood Creek in Deer Lodge. On your agenda item, I'm going to read most of that just so everybody. After the November meeting and the award of credits, we were approached by Jean Luer, the developer of the Cottonwood Creek project in Deer Lodge that received 2018 credits. He realized that as his budget was coming together for his project, he has excess qualified basis that would make this project eligible for additional credits. A substantial part of his project included a request of home funds, and if they were awarded, additional credits could correspondingly reduce their need for home funds by, if the additional credits are awarded, they would correspondingly reduce their need for home funds by $821,729. He is confident the Deer Lodge project will do well in the home process and wants to see the other projects move forward. With that reduction of the home ask, the project would not be financially feasible and would need the additional credits. The benefit of this would allow additional home funds to be available to fund the projects that have applied for a combination of Home National Housing Trust and CDBG housing funds. These projects would include the recent projects we just awarded in Helena, Whitefish, Ronan, and Billings. And you'll see on the table that's inserted there where the loans and costs and the credit ask and the home ask were at the credit application. The second column at the home application, what the new amounts would be and what the difference would be for that project. And then you want to do these separately or should we do them together?
Well, let's discuss them together anyway so that we can know what overall what we're talking about.
And you also have letters in your packet from the developers. Blue Bunch Flats in Livingston has an opportunity to capture a lease on an additional building on the property. I believe they actually own that building and the lease has ended, and so they have that building back and would be able to put in an additional 3 units on that property using the remaining, with the help of the remaining balance of credits that are available, which is $7,600 or $74,690 for the 10-year amount. And both Jean and Heather are on the phone too. So.
And we also want Greg had a comment too, Pat, just so you know.
Okay. Can you scroll down to the homeward letter? I had a question regarding the second bullet point there that says approval of the allocation of $7,649 from the balance of credits remaining. I'm assuming that's not the entire balance of credits remaining after the November allocation meeting. That there's enough credits to cover both of these requests.
That's correct. I worked with Heather. She knew that we had the request from Jean came in first, and so she worked with the balance that was left of the credits after.
Oh.
If
all right. Okay.
Were approved.
Okay, Greg.
And
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that's my understanding of what, in theory, is left after the adjustments for the 2019 projects, and it's a small amount, but we're happy to take the last few to go ahead and work the balance of the equation on Blue Bunch. So if there's any questions, just ask.
Thank you.
It's an annual
Heather?
amount. Mm-hmm. Yes, Heather. Sorry about
that. Thank you. Greg, you had some comments?
I think I'll wait until we get into the discussion further to see if my comments are pertinent or not. But once you move forward, then I'll let you know.
All right. Well, we don't have a motion, but let's go ahead and have a discussion from board members or questions from the board members regarding these 2 requests.
This is Jeanette. I think it's a win-win. Honestly, it allows Livingston to do more and just shifts things. And anyway, I think it's a win-win, and I would, when it's time, make the motion to approve.
This is Johnny. This is Johnny. Is that a deferred developer fee?
On the table?
On that table, so they've decreased the developer fee by $58,000. Is that what that's telling us?
No, it's going up.
So, Mary, I apologize. I do not have that in front of me. So, is it a question around Blue Bunch?
No, it's Cottonwood Creek.
Okay, thank you.
So they're deferring more of their developer fee than they had originally put in, suggested in their original application. They're deferring more of their developer fee. to go to the project.
Pat, if I
Yes.
could just walk through this table that I put together, and Mary's done a good job explaining it, but just to describe what it's telling us is that from their original application to what they're proposing now on Cottonwood Creek, their permanent loan has increased by $165,000. They're proposing to reduce their state home ask by $821,729. Likewise, on the housing credit side, they're increasing their credits if they're awarded. They're also increasing their deferred developer fee by $58,728. But the net effect is their total project cost has actually gone down by $61,693. Part of the differences you're seeing though is, and the difference from the original state home request, it had actually gone down to $995 between our original app and the home app. So what I was trying to demonstrate there is the project costs weren't going up, and they were equally, taking on additional credits, but likewise reducing their home ask.
All right, thank you, Bruce. Are there other questions or comments from members of the board? Are there questions or comments from members of the public? I know we have quite a few developers online.
This is Alex, Chairman Milley. I do have some comments that I'd like to make when appropriate.
Well, now's the time.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We found out about this Friday evening, I guess, and spent some time yesterday looking at it. And I guess I'd like to express some real concern with what is happening here. And I think it's more than just this meeting. And I don't like doing this. I feel like I'm the bad guy here, but I just would like to present some information that I've found, and I think might be relevant in the board making their decision. Going back through just the last year's board meeting minutes, I have some concern about what's happened to our process of competitive awards of these projects. In February, at the board meeting in Billings, we refreshed the credits on a 2016 project that hadn't made progress, was at risk of losing its credits for not performing, and it was granted a fresh start. In April, at the board meeting just before the housing conference in Butte, a project was granted $550,000 in additional credit. The next board meeting in August of 18, two projects were granted additional credits, $330,000 to one, $472,000 to another. You add those things up, that was $1,350,000 in credits that were taken off the table, so to speak, from our most recent competitive round in November. Here today, we've got credit requests for over $1 million. If we add all that up, that's $2.4 million in credits that have been allocated outside of competitive rounds. I mean, that's almost a small project. That's certainly 30, 35, 40% of the funding that could go to a full-size project if the credits are carried forward and included in a competitive round. So it seems to have become kind of the normal course over the last 12 months, and that has me concerned for the other developments. I mean, even outside of the usual application cycle, I just found out about this Friday. Maybe that's because we weren't awarded any credits at the November meeting, but what about Helena and Whitefish and Ronan and Billings? I mean, have they had the opportunity to exchange credits for home funds or home funds for credits? I mean, is that being looked at also? Looking at Gene's letter and there being excess basis, I certainly understand that. Ever since the board was given discretion to award the basis boost and the applicable rate being locked at 9% on the credits, every project we've worked on has had excess basis. So I wouldn't think that that's unique to Cottonwood Creek. I think all the projects would be eligible for something like this. And so I'm having a little bit of a hard time understanding why this has become the norm. I'm hearing part of the rationale is that there's insufficient home funds for all the projects that were awarded tax credits. I understand the last round is closed, and the awards were made, but boy, we had a project that could have been completed without needing home funds, and now it seems that there's not enough home funds, CDBG and NHF to fund what's been asked. So I guess I've got some concerns with that. I mean, how do these projects move forward now if they're all asking from the same pot other than tax credits and there's not sufficient funds there? So,
all right, thank you, Alex. Excuse me, were you finished? I don't mean to cut you off.
No, I appreciate that. I had one last comment, and again, I don't want this to be construed as personal, but I do think that the question needs to be asked and addressed. The QAP does provide for requests for additional credits and reasons for that, and I know that you guys are looking at those. But it also provides in Section 9 of the development selection criteria, it talks about developer knowledge and responsiveness. And one of the categories under demonstrated management weakness has requested additional credits more than once. One of these requests is coming from a developer that has requested and been awarded additional credits on both a 16 and 17 round project, and here's a request for a project in the 2018 round. I'd wonder if, and the application they were involved with in 2019 didn't have any negative points under this demonstrated management weakness, has requested additional credits more than once. So I'd wonder if part of today's action is addressing that other side of the coin, how that's looked at for future.
Thank you, Alex. Are there further comments from members of the public?
Yes, this is Bonnie Craigie with RCAC, and I just have a question. Does this allocation of tax credits and the reduction in the home solve the home department's problem with having not enough home to fulfill the request? And the reason I ask that is because if our home applications are not going to get funded, then we're going to probably need some of these extra credits. So I'm just curious if there's that kind of coordination going on to avoid people having shortfalls in their existing projects because their home applications didn't get approved or were partially funded.
Thank you. Mary or Bruce, you want to address that?
Yeah, this is Bruce. I'll address that. We have been communicating with Community Development Division. They're not at a point where they're able to announce, the results of their cycle.
Right.
The fact, is they have more requests for home money than they have home money in other funds to kind of fund. So the idea behind this was that they would be able to get down their list further, hopefully, helping, one of the 4 projects that we have and that we just awarded in Helena, Whitefish, Ronan, and Billings. And Cottonwood Creek is a project that, can probably just stay where it's at, and hopefully it would get funded, but, that's not always a guarantee either. But, if we looked at this, and the only reason we're actually proposing it is that some of those projects basically that wouldn't be in the funding cycle for home would maybe have to wait another year and be a year down the road in their construction cycle. And again, that includes Helena, Whitefish, Ronan, and Billings. So, so I guess that's the response to that.
Can I just? There's just one thing I want to say. When Alex was talking about how there's extra basis on the table, that's true for many of us, and so that's why I'm wondering about funding new projects before we've made sure that our other projects have been fully funded. I guess that's my ultimate point.
Thank you. Are there other comments from members of the public?
Sturhan, Pat, this is Don Sturhan. Just one point of clarification. The Billings project is not in the pool for home funding. I think Bonnie's raising a very interesting question as to whether the strategy can get us there, but Billings is not part of the home fund pool at this point.
Thank you, Don.
Don, Pat, this is Bruce again. Don, can you just confirm, but you are in the pool for Housing Trust Fund, right?
That's correct.
And I think what the strategy that they're using in community development is to basically, with all of those funding types, just fund as many housing units as they can. So as they do that, I know that's just part of their total equation over there. That's what that is about.
Thank you. Are there other comments from members of the public?
Pat,
go ahead.
Pat, this is Gene Luer.
Yes, Gene.
The Cottonwood Creek project, as it sits, I'm very comfortable leaving its current mix of funding. The only reason for the request was to reduce the home ask commensurate with the increase in tax credit equity. And the only reason for doing that was to more efficiently use the few resources that the state has available for funding projects. I'm very comfortable that Cottonwood Creek will compete great for home funds, and if it doesn't, I'll live with those consequences. If there's a strategy with other projects that have excess basis and would prefer the tax credits and accomplish the same thing with home, that's great with me as well. The project as it sits from my perspective is just fine. What I saw was the reality that between home and HTF funds, there were more requests than there was money available for board-funded projects, and there was tax credits left unallocated. I certainly understand, and one of my before I made the request, one of my discussions with Mary was just that, and I didn't want the fact that there was an additional credit request to reflect negatively in the future. The only reason for the request from my perspective is to utilize all the funds available rather than laying some on the table. And if there's another way to do that, I'm fine with it.
Thank you, Gene. There are other comments, questions from members of the public?
Pat, this is Heather McMillan with Homeward, and in regards to the excess basis question, I think that any of us can trade out more credits and reduce our home or housing trust fund applications, and I'm sure there was a lot more that went into how this was presented. I worked with Mary as well on the small piece we have for Blue Bunch, but it was knowing that they were working for a solution to not leave 3 or 4 projects short funded. It was to spread the credits to fill in the gaps and reduce home and HTF for other projects. Whitefish certainly has both home and HTF. We've heard about HTF, and we got more than we requested, which is a bit of a issue that we're working on with Department of Commerce because it requires 30% AMI units. But I would trust that if we could award today or do another version, as Gene suggests, that we could work through where there's not a negative consequence for all the other projects, and you have your 4 tax credit projects moving forward in a position of strength. But I'm not sure that it can be as open as, hey, let's talk with Department of Commerce how to, and work out a mathematical solution. I think this was one of several options, and we want all the projects to be funded successfully. So
we're picking up somebody's music here, so.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I'll end there, but just know that we're in the same boat with home and HTF. Thank you.
Hey, whoever's got the music on, could you mute your phone?
I think somebody put us on hold.
Oh, okay. Well, that's nice.
Oh, boy.
All right. Well, are there any further comments or questions from members of the public? Well, that's irritating. I think that we probably should handle these separately. So before we have any further discussion, let's have a motion on Cottonwood Creek.
Well, I said I'd make the motion.
I'm going to mute all your lines.
Yes, you said you would
come off.
So what do you want us to do?
You said you would make a motion when the time came. You haven't made it yet.
I haven't, but I would if you're prepared. That I would move to approve this is presented for Cottonwood Creek award additional credit and reduce their need for home funds.
Is there a second?
Was that Jeanette talking? I can hardly hear anything.
Yeah, that was.
All right, everyone. I muted all lines. Board members, would you please hit *2 to unmute yourself?
All right, I'm unmuted.
All right, we got rid of the music.
Who else is
unmuted? Please do not put us on hold.
This is Johnny.
This is Amber.
Eric, are you there?
Yeah, this is Eric.
All right, so we have the 5 of us, or 4 of us, huh?
And if anyone out there else wants to talk or has a comment later, Pat, *2 will unmute your line.
But do not put us on hold. Okay, I think we had a motion. Did I hear a second?
I'll second it. This is Amber.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion from the board on the motion to approve the Cottonwood Creek request?
This is Johnny. I just want to make one comment, kind of in a similar kind of sense of Alex's comments. We have seen quite a few of these, at least in the short period that I've been on the board. So I think it might be something, Bruce, that we make sure that we understand, going forward, whether or not, or what our actual kind of process. How do we need to really evaluate these as a board, so that we don't have the same kind of confusion that I think is coming up right now in terms of whether this follows the QAP and whether or not we're, shorting somebody down the line. I think it's a good project. I know I was in favor of the project before, and I'm still in favor of it now. But just want to make sure that we need to visit this process and what this looks like.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
This is Greg Gould. I just wanted to, if you would like, I would just like to provide a little background on the QAP provision that's at issue here.
Certainly.
In section 4I of the QAP, there is a provision that allows the board in its discretion to increase the amount of credits reserved where there are available credits. And that is in a situation where the board determines that increase is necessary for the financial feasibility of the project. I think you probably all recall, I don't remember which board meeting, but recently the board did, in the latest QAP revision, the board made some revisions to this section to put some more criteria and considerations into this decision making. I think the idea was to make additional credit requests, again, more of a last resort situation. That there is language to that effect in the QAP, looking at the financial feasibility and the need for the additional funds. I think that the sort of the underlying maybe consideration there was that these are situations that occur largely outside the control of developers due to changing economic conditions or things of that nature, and looking to what are the other available sources of funding and things of that nature. So again, I think if the board feels that this is an ask that is needed for the financial feasibility of the project, that's certainly within the realm of that provision. And this particular situation is maybe a little different than maybe what some people were thinking about, because it's really this isn't really a situation where somebody had funding, they lost it, now we need this to make the project feasible. But this is a situation where it's an opportunity for the board to maybe maximize the use of all of the housing funds that are available in terms of tax credits and other funding sources. So it's got a little different element to it that maybe you wouldn't normally see. That certainly, I think it's within the board's authority and discretion to try to consider those kinds of factors and maximize the use of all those monies and get the most units, etc. The other second point I would make, and then I'll be quiet, is that if the board does also, if you feel this is not within the terms of that particular provision, but it's something that you think is in the best interest of the program and the board's mission, you do have the waiver provision available to you as well to waive that financial feasibility requirement. That would be an alternative way to approach this as well. So if you have questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Greg. Does anybody have any questions of Greg? Are there further comments or questions from members of the board? Okay, I'm going to give the public another opportunity to weigh in. Are there any comments or questions from members of the public? And whoever's got their phone on hold, please do not unmute your phone. All right, Paula, I think we should probably do a roll call vote on this.
Amber?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Jeanette?
Star two, Jeanette.
Jeanette, are you there?
Johnny?
Yes.
Pat?
No.
Jeanette?
Jeanette must be abstaining, so it's 3-1, motion carries. The chair would entertain a motion. Yes?
Greg?
Yes.
At 3-1, does that carry?
I have to remind myself of that. One moment. Just stand by a moment, please.
Yeah, we may need Jeanette. I think it's a quorum of the full board, not just those attending. But Greg, please check it.
I'm checking it right now. Meanwhile, Bruce or somebody, do you want to try to call Jeanette and see if you can get her back online?
I will.
Maybe she was our on hold culprit.
Yes, under the quasi-judicial board statute, a favorable vote of at least a majority of all members of the board is required to adopt any resolution. So we do need a majority of the total number of board members.
So the motion fails.
That's correct.
All right. Thank you, and thank you for whoever reminded us of that.
Hold on a second.
Okay.
Pardon?
Oh, I'm going to help Bruce
Hold on one
unmute
second.
everybody, okay? Are you, okay, sounds good.
Jeanette's having technical issues, so hold on. Jeanette, are you there?
She might have.
Give her a minute to call back in.
Jeanette told me that she just called me and said that she's been trying to unmute herself and it's not letting her to get through. So she has been, oops. Hey, Jeanette.
Yeah, I'm back. I can't get, I got disconnected again.
That's okay. I just have to hear her phone.
Okay, so my vote was yes. I kept hitting star 2, unable to get through. It didn't matter what I was doing. And my vote was yes.
All right, so the vote is 4-1. So the motion does carry. All right, now the chair would entertain a motion on the Blue Bunch Flats request. Not hearing a motion. We can move on to whatever our other business is.
I believe that is the end of our agenda.
All right, very good then. If there's a consensus to adjourn the meeting, we'll consider it adjourned.
Pat, so I apologize. This is Heather in Missoula.
Yes, Heather.
Were there any questions? And I assume that from Jeanette's testimony earlier that she was going to do it as a motion for the few remaining credits for our 3 additional units on Blue Bunch. Are there questions? Does anybody have? We have a letter, but I know the other piece is more complicated. But is there any avenue for us to have a discussion?
Members of the board, any questions of Heather? Any second thoughts about not moving this request?
Mr. Chairman, Pat, can you hear me? This is Jeanette.
Yes, Jeanette.
Okay. I honestly, I expected another board member to make a motion, so I didn't. I was sort of waiting. I don't understand. I guess I can't know why we would leave that on the table. So I will make the motion that we would approve the additional 74,690 to capture three more units with the remaining balance of credits. It was my main moment all along was that I hate having all these credits sit and not being utilized and used. And I think what we did today, I think, is the best way. And at the same time, taking what Alex said very seriously. And I think that we need to discuss those things at a different time, a different meeting, different planning moment, but that's not here today. So I am making the motion to approve that additional 74,690 to go to Blue Flats in Livingston, if I can get a second.
Thank you, Jeanette. Yes, there's been a motion made. Is there a second?
This is
Johnny.
Amber. Can you hear? Oh, go ahead, Johnny.
I second.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Heather, thank you for holding us up a little bit so Jeanette could
Sorry about that.
make her. All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the Blue Bunch, I want to say Blue Bunch Flats request. Is there any questions or comments from members of the board?
I just would concur with Jeanette that we at a future time we need to have a more discussion on this, I think.
I would hope we could take a little bit of time on February 11th maybe and talk about this. Are there any comments or questions from members of the public?
This is Heather again, and I'll go ahead and give you guys a little context. This is 7,469 annual credits, and it equates to about $70,000 in a total project request. So it's a very little amount, but the mechanism was for us to also request 3 additional units. And so that's why it was important that we talk about it a little bit. Western Montana Mental Health had been leasing a small commercial building on the property, and with all the state funding cuts, they had to close a bunch of offices. And so instead of releasing that to another commercial entity, we are proposing making a super cost-effective switch to do 3 additional units, which also affords us the ability to hold debt on the project with our current investor. And so this is a minor monetary request for you all, but the 3 additional units is what we want to make sure we're clear that is approved and we can move forward. And in fact, we will be looking to close in January and start the construction because the environmental cleanup is completed this month and we can acquire the building and do so. So again, if they need to be separated from the monetary piece of the additional $70,000 in equity, $7,000 in annual credits, we can do that, but we would hope we could get approval for the 3 additional units to the project. And we, in our summary, showed that there was no change in scoring or amenities, those sorts of things. So if there's any questions, please ask. We appreciate your consideration.
Right. Heather, would you like us to bifurcate the motion so that we're voting on 3 additional units and then on the 7,000?
Pat, this is Mary.
Go ahead, Mary.
Pat, this is Mary. The board has given staff the authority to approve those kind of changes. so the board doesn't have to do a motion on those units.
All right, thank you. So
Okay.
the motion would simply be on the additional credits.
Yep.
All right,
The 7,000 credits, correct. Sorry about that, Mary.
Yes,
I appreciate
okay.
that.
No, thank you for the clarification, Mary. I appreciate that. All right, are there any other comments or questions from members of the public? Hearing none, Paula, I think we should do a roll call on this as well.
Amber?
Amber, are you out there?
Yeah, sorry, I was having trouble unmuting. I also missed Paula. I'm assuming she just asked for my vote.
Yes.
Okay, yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Jeanette?
Yes.
Johnny?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Are there?
We appreciate it.
Thank you. Are there any other things to come before the board before we adjourn? Hearing none, if there's a consensus of the board, we will adjourn the meeting at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.